some of it.
By the way, speaking of taking calls, nobody takes more calls in a day than our next guest, host of Sirius XM NASCAR Radio, The Morning Drive. Mike Bagley joins us. Bagman, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Marty. How you guys doing tonight?
We're all good. So I'm assuming the calls today all about the 2020 schedule. What's the fan reaction been so far?
Well, the fan reaction for the most part has been positive. A lot of folks looking forward to what we're going to see in 2020. There are some that have a little apprehension because, as you know, when change happens, people have a tendency to get a little crossed up. But for the most part, everybody's looking forward to this. A lot of people just want to leap past 2019 and go right to 2020. Unfortunately, we can't do that. We got other fish to fry here before we get to that point.
Yeah, there's more people that like to leap past 2020 and go right to 2021. I'm one of them.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. Yeah.
You talked to a lot of crew chiefs, drivers, and owners today. What was their reaction?
Their reaction's good. Actually, Todd Gordon sent me a text. He says, guys, I want to come on and talk about this schedule. There's a lot of unknowns, and obviously the big one that you guys already talked about is Pocono. How are we going to handle the doubleheader? How are we going to handle rain-out? How are we going to handle cars? And how are we going to handle qualifying and practice and all that? Obviously, those details will be ironed out. But as far as, like, the people inside that are actually going to be doing the race schedule themselves from a driver's or a crew chief's point of view, they're looking forward to it. And I think that this has breathed new life into a lot of folks inside of the ranks of the garage and outside of the ranks as well. A lot of folks are looking forward to what we have coming up.
Hey, you talk about breathing new life. How about Martinsville at night? What's that going to be like, man?
That's going to be insane. And that, to me, is NASCAR's new bucket list experience. Because, Kyle, you've been there. Dale, you've been there. Marty, you've been there as well. I mean, Martinsville's been on the landscape forever. I mean, since day one. And then now you put it under lights. I did a late model race there a couple of years ago, and I was blown away with how the place looks at night. We got a little taste there when we had that little Denny Chase dust-up at the end of the fall race a couple of years ago. And I think that's what had people craving it. And finally, Clay Campbell and that team at Martinsville got their way. I'm looking forward to that. That's one of my more favorite changes that are coming up in 2020, just seeing what that place looks like under the lights with a cup race going on at the same time.
I got to agree with you about that being probably my favorite change as well. I remember leaving that race that year with Chase Elliott and Denny Hamlin thinking, man, if we could bottle that up and have that every single week somehow.
The emotion that was in the
we couldn't print enough tickets.
Crazy.
It was the wildest thing I'd seen and felt in a very long time, and the biggest reaction I'd seen from the fans in a long time.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. We're going to have that night race at Martinsville next year. Atlanta was a track. This is kind of a lesser known or lesser talked about part of the change in the schedules. And Atlanta was moved from the second race to behind the West Coast swing. How do you feel about that? And is that a good move for Atlanta and a positive for them?
It is a tremendous positive, Junior, because as we all know, one of the more commonly asked questions was, why are we going to Atlanta after we leave Daytona? You know, it's not necessarily a tropical destination in Georgia there at the end of February. Everyone's like, why can't we move it back? And I think that's caused the fans to maybe shy away from that place a little bit. By moving it after the West Coast swing and giving them a little time to warm up, I think that's doing a lot of favors to Atlanta and a lot of the favors to the fans that have either gone there and endured some of the weather challenges we've had, or some that have decided to steer clear. Perhaps maybe we'll get them to come back. I mean, Georgia at the end of March there, well, actually the middle of March, around the 15th, to me is a whole lot better than the end of February. I like that change, and I like them putting it deeper in. You know, we're getting our warm weather environments all squared away by going out west earlier, which leaves us a little room to work with on the backside in the cases of like Atlanta.
You know, Bagley, the thing that jumps out at me are the cut races in 2020. You've got Bristol, Charlotte, the Roval, and then Martinsville. You guys talked to Jerry Caldwell from Bristol today on the morning drive. What was his reaction to being a cut race for the Bristol night race now in the playoffs?
He is ecstatic, and justifiably so. I heard you guys talking about this a few moments ago. The cut races, Bristol, the Roval, and Martinsville, and then you start everything off at the, I mean, that's a pretty potent playoff lineup. And it got me thinking this afternoon, you know, some folks, when you have your legacy fans, as I call them, who aren't really in favor of the playoffs, perhaps maybe this will change some minds, because you're adding another short track, and obviously you're kicking it off at the legendary Darlington Raceway. I mean, one guy told me today, NASCAR is basically just trying to kill us because we can't take all this excitement. He says, but between going to Darlington, going to Bristol, going to Charlotte, going to Martinsville, I can't take this. He says, I just may end up going to all of them. So there's a lot of excitement for that is concerned, but I like the fact we got 2 short tracks and a road course to eliminate drivers in the playoffs going forward.
Well, we're all excited for 2020. Back to business tomorrow for you guys on TMD. You'll be back at 7 a.m. talking Texas, no doubt. Looking forward to hearing you guys in the morning.
Appreciate it, fellas. Always a pleasure, and love the show.
Hey, NASCAR fans. Thanks for checking out the NBC Sports YouTube channel. Make sure you hit subscribe below for the latest NASCAR news, race highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.